One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed it does, folks. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit, and welcome to the show. Right, okay. So some of you may have noticed, some of you may not be aware of this yet, but it's yet another Open Please. Yes, indeed, folks. That means the topics will be dictated by you. Now, I know some of you cynical people are sitting there thinking, ha, the only reason he's doing this is because he's run out of things to say, and you would be absolutely correct in that assumption. I have actually, to my knowledge, talked about absolutely everything in WoW that I want to talk about ever, until we get some new content to chat about. So, until further notice, that's exactly how Blue Please is going to work. Open Please. All the topics are going to be suggested by you. You can suggest entire topics, which take me 15 minutes to discuss, or you can just ask me questions, whatever the hell you like. Test my knowledge to the absolute limit and see if you can catch me out. However, class balance discussions are completely out of the question. I hate them, and you are well aware of that. Mages are fine, learn to play. Alright, okay. So, what have I been doing this week? Not an awful lot. Guild took down Broodlord, or Loot Lord Lashlayer, as some people like to call it, which is always good. So progressing into Blackwing Lair now, waiting for Anchorage to sort itself out. What else have I been doing? Not an awful lot. Not on WoW, anyway. I picked up a copy of Guild Wars, in fact. Actually, I picked up 2 copies of Guild Wars. One went to my girlfriend, the other one to me. We decided to start playing Guild Wars as a alternative to WoW, not a replacement to it. So I started playing, I picked the game up, and what struck me to start with was the character customization. I thought, right, the character customization is slightly better. Admittedly, everyone's human, which is a little bit dull, has to be said, but it's not bad. Character customization is pretty good. I can create a character who I want to actually play. So, as any red-blooded post-pubescent male would do, I created a female. So I've got a female ranger, and I started the game, and I thought, right, okay, what am I going to do? Walked around a bit. Quests, yes. Oh, look, it looks very, very similar to WoW in the way that you find something with an exclamation mark above its head, or question mark, and then you go and get a quest, go and do the quest, blah, blah. And I thought, yeah, this is quite cool. One of the first things I noticed was the ability to create a character with a name which has more than one word in it. Now, I may officially say that that was the worst idea in history, mainly because you're selling a game which has no subscription. So, in other words, any 12-year-old idiot can buy it and play it. And you're giving them the opportunity to make the stupidest names in the world. I kid you not. So, we've got OMG Pwns Noobs the Warrior wandering around there. Got a mage called Gandalf the Great. We've got... what else is it? Carius came up with a whole massive list of really stupid names that he found in the American realm. It was really, really bad. But yeah, it's good. I actually like the naming system, but let's face it. It's like giving a butcher's knife to a child. It's, you know, it's not going to be pretty. Whatever happens, the result will not be pretty. So yeah. That's something, as far as I'm concerned, the game has over Guild Wars. The game has over Guild Wars. The game has over World of Warcraft. For the record, I did not go Ranger Monk. I went Ranger Mesmer. On the basis that I wanted to create a sniper-type character. Now, I heard that Mesmer would allow you to create a character which had debuffs and hexes. So I would be able to slow down a character. So I picked up Imagined Burden, which is effectively a slowing ability. It's actually like Frost Shock, only it just doesn't do any damage. It slows the target to 50%. So I started shoving all my points in marksmanship, because I wanted to be a Zong elite sniper instead of a Beastmaster or survivalist or whatever. Started shoving all my points into marksmanship and used my mesmer abilities to keep the opponent at bay while I shoot him in the face with arrows. And what really satisfied me more than anything, not only the satisfying twang of the bow, which sounds a lot better than the terrible creaking noise in WoW, but the ability to shoot off hills and actually gain range bonuses. So I'm standing on top of a hill and I'm raining arrows down on my opponents with an actual proper fall-off with the arrow instead of the thing just being propelled from my bow mysteriously in a completely straight line towards the target. So, yeah. So far I'm quite enjoying it. Now, the first section of my show, I want to compare, first impressions-wise, WoW to Guild Wars. Now, let me just say like this. I'm not a fanboy of any particular game. What I am is a gamer. As a gamer, I play games. To be tied to any particular game is inefficient and stupid. So if I say, oh, well, I'm not going to play that game because I'm playing World of Warcraft, that's just silly because you deny yourself the experience of being a true gamer. A true gamer who actually plays lots of games, who has a wide variety of gaming tastes, and who gets as much enjoyment out of the whole genre as possible, rather than just effectively restricting yourself for no apparent reason, on the basis that someone might call you, you can be a fanboy or whatever. So yeah, that's going to be the first section of the show. The rest of the show is going to be topics and such suggested by you. So send them to my email box, themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. Shoutouts will be done later. Right, so back to the Guild Wars vs. WoW comparison. So, character creation. It's nice, but again, there's so little variety in how your characters look, as in they're all human, that sort of kind of nerfs the ability to sort of colour your clothes in the way you want to. As far as character customization goes, that's where Guild Wars really shines over WoW. It is one of the areas. Now, the thing about Guild Wars is that it's more skill-based and less items-based. I don't mean skill-based as in Zomg, I have elite skills, because let's face it, it's an RPG. You don't aim your bow, it shoots for you. Skills. There are a lot of character skills to be had, yet you can only use 8 at any given time. You can only have 8 on your hotbar, and those are the only ones you can use outside of a town. You go back to a town, you can change the skills you have, so you can effectively swap out skills for particular situations. That's kind of cool. One, because it doesn't bog you down with having loads and loads and loads of skills that you've got to use at the same time, so it makes it easier to find a build that you're comfortable with, but it allows for character customization. Now, whereas the items in Guild Wars are dross, they really are, in comparison to WoW, there is so little variety. There really is. Most of the weapons look the same. I've gone through 7 bows so far in a day, and only one was actually a different model to the ones that I went through. It's like, ooh, longbow, flat bow, Acheron bow. They all look exactly the same. Great. Oh, I got a enchanted bow. Oh, it looks the same as the last one. Well, but yeah. So, what you've effectively got is, whereas WoW, character customization is done via itemization, in Guild Wars, it's done by skill builds. So, if I want to customize my character, that's the way to do it. Now, while items and armor are pretty weak, they do allow for weapon and armor customization. You can add runes to armor, for instance. Now, socketed items are coming in WoW, and that's a very good thing. That's something I'm looking forward to, because I like to customize my character as much as I can. That is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the main weaknesses that WoW has always had, and I've known this ever since I started playing, that the character customization is limited. Now, socketed items will hopefully allow for more character customization. In Guild Wars, you get to customize your weapon, which will effectively soulbind it to you. Items aren't necessarily soulbound, but they can become soulbound if you customize them. So say, right, I'm going to customize my bow, for instance. It makes it more powerful, but it becomes soulbound to me. So I can't then disenchant it or salvage it for materials, and I can't sell it to somebody else. So it's a trade-off. That's quite good. I like that. Runes can be added to armor in the same way that this whole socketed item system in WoW is going to work. You can upgrade your armor. It's sort of like an enchant, only it can be used by anyone, and it can be bought from rune vendors, or it can be found in the field. It's a one-time thing. You can't create runes. You've got to find them. So once you replace your armor, that's it. But it's nice. I like it. I can customize my character. So yeah, the combat is relatively similar. It really is. I mean, there's only so far you can go in an MMORPG and have the combat being particularly varied and different from the next one. It just doesn't happen. They all follow a specific formula. You know, and it's the same. If I'm playing a hunter, compared to my Ranger in Guild Wars, we effectively do the same thing. I attack, my pet charges in, auto-attack starts, and then I spend energy or mana on abilities. It's exactly the same, effectively. My abilities are more limited, but it's the same thing. The only thing I have to say is that Guild Wars combat is slightly more exciting, just mainly because of graphical style more than anything. Now, whereas WoW combat is very functional, it's a very good system, it works very well, Guild Wars combat is a lot flashier. The graphics are better, it's that simple. Whereas graphic design in WoW, especially places like the cities, you could argue is better. The overall, as far as I'm concerned, the overall level of graphics is better in Guild Wars. That adds a lot to the game. Spell effects, for instance. One of the most underwhelming things in WoW. They're functional, but in Guild Wars they're very flashy. It's blindingly obvious what a person is using, because you can tell, they're raining meteors down from the skies and explosions all over the screen and lovely light shows and everything. Animations are better as well, has to be said. A warrior in combat looks a lot better than a warrior in WoW. But then again, there are some things which don't quite work the same. I think the reason, to be honest, that Guild Wars does not have a lot of instance PvE raid content, as it were. They do have big monsters you can go and kill, but where WoW is more of a PvE game, and its raid encounters are a lot more complex, they're a lot more cerebral, they're a lot more well thought out. The aggro system, for instance. In Guild Wars, the aggro system seems a little bit random. I can't pull the aggro off someone by battering the living crap out of them. It's more about who the monster first sees and they'll decide to chew on. That's really about it. There is no aggro control as such. This is my first impression of the game in comparison to World of Warcraft. PvP. Well, I have only taken part in one PvP fight so far, because obviously in the training, which again is another nifty area of Guild Wars, you actually get to take part in PvP. You have to, in fact, to progress. A PvP mission. The only way to pass that mission is to beat the other team. That's cool. I do enjoy that. The fact that they're integrating PvP into the game's character progression rather than simply having it on the side as something you can do. Now, there is a possible argument there that maybe they shouldn't have done that, because PvP can be optional. You roll on a PvE server, you don't really want to PvP unless you feel like it. Guild Wars forces you to do that. You have to PvP. In fact, the end game is effectively PvE, whereas the WoW end game is PvE. I've got it completely the wrong way around, haven't I? Guild Wars is PvP end game, and World of Warcraft is PvE end game. It's an interesting conundrum. To be honest, what I'd like to conclude from this, before I get onto your topics, is that they are two totally, completely different games. Now, when people complain, Guild Wars, let's say, for instance, the Guild Wars fan base, a lot of them hate WoW. They're Guild Wars fanboys. Heck, someone registered World of Warcraft sucks.com, and it now redirects to Guild Wars. Now, somehow I doubt that was NCSoft or ArenaNet who did that. It'll have been a fan that's done that. Say, hey, that's funny. Well, I'll go and register Guild Wars sucks and redirect it to worldofwarcraft.com, and what will that accomplish? Absolutely nothing, because they're two totally different games. Guild Wars in itself is not an MMO. Most of it is instanced. It plays in the same way that Phantasy Star Online used to play. Those of you who played that on the Dreamcast will know that the communal areas, you had a lot of people in them. However, the actual game was instanced. Go out of the town, bang. Instance groups. Your own private copy of the world. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It has to be said, WoW sometimes feels a bit crowded. If I'm trying to do a quest and 20 people are farming the mob, well, that's just not helpful. But then again, the flip side of that is the world doesn't quite feel as alive as WoW does. Movement is restricted. It's like, oh, there's a hill. Oh, I can't climb it. It's a 10% incline, but I still can't climb it because the game does not want me to climb it. Whereas in WoW, it's like, well, I want to jump off this cliff. It's my choice to jump off this cliff, therefore that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't have to follow a preset path. Both games have their good points, and both games have their bad points. The best way to get the whole experience out of online role-playing games, as far as I'm concerned, is to play both. In fact, play as many as you possibly can. Get the broadest perspective on online role-playing, because it is one of the most exciting developments in gaming in general. The idea of being able to role-play online with a whole bunch of people from around the world is a thrilling and exciting concept. To limit yourself to just one narrow view of that particular concept is, in my opinion, quite silly. You're missing out. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Get your topics into the murloc@gmail.com. Topics and questions, send them my way. Here's a little bit of Primal Fear. This is Demons and Angels. Enjoy.